Well, terrific. Happy Friday, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me for the World Food Travel Association's first online teleseminar. I'm really excited to be a part of this. And this particular webinar was especially crafted for the World Food Travel Association. So there's been a lot of talk about wellness and food and the synergy among the two. So without further ado, I'm going to start with the presentation. Let's see. All right, I'm having a little trouble moving the first slide. Let's see, here we go. All right, so just to give you a little background about wellness tourism worldwide, our vision is to make wellness travel fun, accessible, rewarding for everyone involved. And our mission is to improve well-being and economic growth through travel. So we work with companies, destinations, and travel entrepreneurs to grow their business by improving the well-being of their clients and passengers. We consistently deliver the message that wellness travel is for everyone, and we have a leave no stakeholder behind approach. So that includes, of course, food, farms, ranches, food-related organizations, but also so much more. We've actually identified over 14 groups in one of our last reports for different stakeholders that have an opportunity to contribute to and benefit from wellness travel. Those range from medical professionals to park and recreational and outdoor outfitters to museums and cultural attractions, travel businesses, meeting planners, organizations that promote family values, insurance companies, and there's more information on our website if you're interested. But this leave no stakeholder approach is really important because it can open doors to new partners, to new audiences, campaigns, and collaboration. This just gives you a quick snapshot of what we do. So we provide research, education, training, and workshops. We also have a wellness travel journal, which is a website, and a monthly consumer newsletter. And also we just launched our industry promotion, which is really helpful in linking travel destinations to suppliers and all different groups that want to really reach out and promote their offerings. So subscribers can read about conferences and events, trends, and news. It's a free subscription, so you're welcome to log on to our website and subscribe. To get on with the presentation, this is an outline of our today's agenda, and we'll be covering the wellness travel basics, from understanding the concept of wellness travel to really focusing on food and what that looks like. So things that we'll be talking about is what is wellness tourism, what are the differences between health, medical, wellness, and spa tourism, who are the stakeholders. I'll talk about healthy food trends in airports, airlines, and hotels. I'll give a couple of examples of destinations that showcase their local food culture. And also there's some interesting slides, just a few on healthy lifestyle and disease prevention. And this foundation, if you're not familiar with it, can help you understand and formulate how you might be able to expand into wellness. And at the end of the presentation, I'll also answer your questions. So this slide basically is a visual of sick care, not healthcare in the United States, with fragmentation showing that 95% of our $2 trillion, now it's $2.7 trillion, is spent on the treatment of disease rather than prevention. And if we look at the next slide, we're not alone. The U.S. is not alone with this problem of preventable chronic diseases. So the modifiable behaviors, number one, is unhealthy diet. We have inactivity, stress, tobacco use, and alcohol. And all of these cumulative unhealthy behaviors contribute to heart disease, stroke, cancer, chronic respiratory disease, and diabetes. So if you look on the right-hand side, where there's the pie chart, this is actually a visual depiction of the World Health Organization's 2005 report that showed that 60% of deaths worldwide are caused by chronic diseases which are preventable. This is a rather unattractive picture, but it shows, depicts a weighty global problem. So right now, about 30%, almost a third of the U.S. population is considered obese. And there's a report that came out that by 2030, 50% of all Americans will be obese. It'll be a $550 billion industry. And again, we're not alone. Already in Mexico, unfortunately, their population is already at that 50% obesity rate. So this is a worldwide problem. Talking a little bit about wellness, you're seeing wellness everywhere in travel. So wellness is now in airplanes and airports and cruise lines and lodging, of course in food, destination marketing. It's appealing to leisure travelers, to business travelers. Travel agents are now becoming more involved in selling wellness travel. Tour operators are packaging wellness travel. So wellness, what is it? Previously, a number of years ago, wellness was really thought in terms of kind of through the lens of two areas, diet and fitness. But it's much more than that. It's really a lifestyle, and savvy consumers have really embraced the fact today that wellness contains several domains, so physical, emotional, spiritual, social, intellectual, vocational, and environmental. These domains, without the environmental, is really, this model was created by Dr. Hetler many years ago. It's one of the most popular models of wellness adopted by many universities, corporations, public health programs. So the idea that wellness is an ongoing process, self-directed, and the circle shows the interrelated and connectedness of these aspects. And vocational, if you think of vocational in terms of work-life balance. And I added the environmental domain, which wasn't part of the original concept, because our planet and the place we live and the environment with which we live and work is instrumental to our overall well-being. There's been some confusion over wellness travel, what it is and what it's more than. So wellness itself is a lifestyle, and a lifestyle is a predictor of travel preferences. Wellness travelers incorporate their healthy lifestyle while on a trip, and wellness tourists embrace a wide variety of activities, such as eating well, eco and adventure, fitness, and more internally driven pursuits such as personal growth, mind-body, spiritual endeavors. But what it's more than is spas. It's really, in the past, wellness travel has been confused with spa travel. And spa travel is a very specific type of travel. Often explaining what something is or is more than is helpful in better understanding the concept. So wellness travel is not medical tourism. Medical tourism is when the traveler is a patient, and the reason they travel is for the treatment of a disease, ailment, or condition. And their motivations include lower cost, higher quality, better access. As I had mentioned, spa and wellness travel are not synonymous, and in the past, wellness tourism was dominated on the supply side through spa and luxury resorts, really providing a singular dimension and reference, mostly for the affluent, kind of in an overindulgent and consumer-oriented way, but that's really no longer the case. We did some research in 2012 and 2013 that is proprietary that indicates that 75% of healthy lifestyle consumers did not visit a spa while on vacation, and out of those that did, 90% had a massage. So what I think you see is some of the global spa marketing companies totally doing a 180 and doing away with spa in their name and replacing it with wellness. And that's not to say that spas are not an important part of wellness travel. It's just to say that it's not synonymous. Wellness travel, as I said, encompasses a lot of existing travel products. It's the way in which it's packaged, and it's also the intent of the traveler that makes the difference. So this clarifies a little, in a diagram form, the relationship between health, medical, wellness, and spa. Health tourism is, if you think of it as the top, and then medical tourism and wellness tourism come under, and spa tourism is a component of wellness tourism. I'll only bring this to your attention again because it has been so confused over the last several years. If you're new to wellness travel, I just wanted to make that point clear. I love this slide because often I'm asked about wellness tourism and what the opportunities are and why it's taken off, why it's so attractive, why so many suppliers and travel sellers have gotten involved. And since you've registered for the webinar and taken valuable time out of your day, I just want to address this very briefly. Wellness and being healthy and vibrant never goes out of style. It really presents the intersection of two major trends. One is on the multi-trillion-dollar global wellness industry that's continuing to grow, and the other is, of course, on the growing tourism sector that's also burgeoning worldwide. Wellness tourism is good for business because it expands the travel seller's portfolio, and health opens the door to a whole new world. And that means that there's opportunities for cross-marketing and cross-selling. It breathes new life into existing products. It resonates with today's consumers, and it's really perfectly poised for changing world demographics. Again, wellness travel is for just about everybody. It can be for couples, it can be for families, it could be for single travelers, for young, for middle-aged, and for older travelers as well. This is part of an infographic that we developed several years ago. In 2012, 2013, I was speaking a lot at travel agent conferences, specifically on that were medical and wellness travel conferences. And so afterwards, I would receive a lot of questions from travel agents and travel sellers that were very interested, and there was still some confusion. So I wanted to quantify what the needs were of the U.S. travel market in better understanding and better selling wellness travel. So here you see the results. 75% said they wanted a better understanding of wellness travel products and services. And then travel motivations came second at 63. A third, but very close, was a wellness consumer demographics. And then, of course, in order to understand wellness, you have to understand some of the healthcare issues. That came in a little less, but still important at 35%. And this is what we used to develop the guide to selling wellness travel. You see a little icon on the right side. It's the cover, which is sold in 22 countries and has won an award for tourism marketing excellence. It's a very good starting point if you're new to the industry. So I want to talk a little bit about general consumer travel demands and its relevance to wellness, wellness travel and food travel. So sense of place, having a sense of place, whether it's, and it really starts actually at the airport, but at the beginning of your travel experience. So sense of place reflecting the local community, the local culture, healthy lifestyles on the road. I already spoke a little bit about lifestyle habits and taking those preferences when you're traveling. Time well spent is important. In terms of, travelers and consumers now are focusing on experiences rather than material things. Connectivity, while digital detox is part of wellness travel, so is connectivity. There are themes of connecting with oneself, with the community, with a higher purpose, with God, with nature. So connectivity is very important. Also, social media sharing is an important part as well. Control and choices. This is specifically very important for some of the food trends that we're seeing in throughout the travel cycle. This speaks to, if you're wondering what's fueling the well-being travel mega trend, these are some, not all, of of the drivers. So we talked a little bit about disease prevention. There's really an emphasis on mind, body, and spirit, and I can tell you that the number of visits to CAM practitioners has already exceeded the number of visits to primary care physicians. So if you're not familiar with CAM, that's complementary and alternative medicine. That would be your chiropractic, your massage therapist, Chinese medicine, Ayurveda. So people are choosing a focus on CAM and looking at ways to invest in their own health that's outside of kind of the traditional Western medicine. We have stress as an epidemic, not only in the U.S., but worldwide, which has really is created by an increased workload and social isolation. And that social isolation kind of adds to this real versus virtual world. When we're tired and overworked, we tend not to make the extra effort to get out in nature, to exercise, to walk, and use our technology instead. There's a real emphasis on higher meaning and self-improvement. People want to, as I said, connection is a really big part, and sense of purpose is a really big part of wellness travel. The wellness-minded traveler is multidimensional, and they look at life in a holistic manner, because wellness is a lifestyle. So eating well, thinking well, socializing well, working well, playing well, moving well. And major brands have identified these and use these in different ways to create their own pillars or their own tenets or their own philosophy on wellness. But this is basically how it looks in terms of what the consumer is interested in. The wellness-minded consumer is interested in a solution to health concerns. What you see on the right is a snippet, a small portion of an infographic that we created from a report that was released in 2013. We were very interested in polling the U.S. vacationing public to better understand what was important to them about travel experiences. And starting a new health regimen was one of the top decisions made during vacation. If you're interested, all of our infographics are posted on our website and are available for free download. You can see the entire infographic. But I showed this as a way to emphasize the importance of taking vacations, especially as it relates to health. So 2013, 2014, 2013 was when we first generated our top 10 wellness travel trends, and came out again in 2014. 2014, we identified breaking bread with wellness, and again, that's why I'm so excited to be on this online food travel teleseminar today. It's really such an important part of wellness travel. So the way that we identified our trends was through several factors. We had on consumer and B2B surveys, we had site visits, we had feedback from travel trade professionals, and an extensive literary research. So all this was consolidated to deliver practical knowledge to the readers of the report for the top 10 wellness travel trends of 2013 and 2014. As I mentioned, breaking bread with wellness is a biggie. This is the intersection of food and wellness. And as Eric has said, and I love his quote, everybody has to eat. And it fits in so well with wellness consumers, because everybody really wants to be vibrant, healthy, feel good, and look good. So this trend is about new food choices and trends in the travel cycle for consumers. As I mentioned, maintaining healthy eating habits. Learning about local food, farm tours, cooking demonstrations, and classes is often a very important part of travel experiences. Food is universal, and sampling local cuisine contributes to creating memorable vacation experiences. It's relational bonding. There's also the opportunity then to share that back home with your family and friends. To give you an example, I was just in Sweden last month, and everywhere I went, I saw these interesting looking coconut chocolate balls, and I found out that this was one of their kind of well-known desserts, and I was so fascinated with it. I ended up when I returned home, I had a birthday celebration and made these Swedish chocolate balls for my family, and they've asked for the recipe, and I've had the opportunity to talk about Sweden. So it's interesting how breaking bread with wellness is not only about the food you eat, but it has that social component, that emotional component, the intellectual component, and other dimensions. It's not just about eating food, eating nutritious food. So now I wanted to toggle over a bit and talk about some of the destinations and trends. So especially with this group, farm to table may not be something new, but it's worth mentioning, especially with the Kurotel Longevity Center. I visited this particular property in 2009. For those of you who aren't familiar with Kurotel, it's a 40-year-old luxury health destination in southern Brazil. It was started by a couple, a physician and his wife, who was a social worker. And they wanted to build a general medical facility and a very pleasant environment that was more than a hotel and focused on integrative health. So they did the research. It was inspired by the European core tradition, which focuses on preventative and rehabilitative medicine. And when I visited, what impressed me most was, of course, the food, but visiting their organic farm and seeing really the tangible evidence of the food that I was eating and how it was being grown and harvested and prepared. So that really made quite an impression on me. The other thing about Kurotel is their focus is on functional food. So their food philosophy is based on individualization. So each guest is evaluated with a full medical history review and then metabolic function tests to identify any nutritional imbalances. And then there's guidance provided on quality and quantity of food. And when I visited, I had a little bit of a stark realization. I didn't know that it was calorie restrictive, but to be quite honest, and it was 1,200. It was a choice of 1,200 calories. Or actually mine was, I was told 1,200 calories. I ended up losing 10 pounds in 10 days, and that weight stayed off for a very long time. But what I found interesting as well was the food experience again. It wasn't just about calorie restriction. It was about eating healthy organic food in a manner that was appealing to the senses. So what I mean by that is, my first dinner experience, let me first say that the staff to guest ratio, it's 4 staff to every guest. So it's an exceptional customer service experience, white table linens, candelabras. On some evenings, there were live Brazilian musicians. So it was quite an interesting experience for the senses, not only the palate. As I mentioned, with the focus on medical, Kurotel really takes very seriously food as medicine. So not only for disease prevention, but during treatment, aiding in recovery and maintaining health. They do have a cancer recovery program. So this is a very integral part of their foundation. Toggling to Sweden. I had a really interesting opportunity to meet Casey Wahlberg, and this is the idea that chefs as wellness ambassadors and tourism ambassadors. Casey is a super neat guy. He's a Swedish chef with a really interesting track record. He's got a long list of credits, awards, international assignments, cookbooks. He has been operating and managing I'm going to probably not say this correctly, but Grublin, which is a restaurant in Skansen in Stockholm. And if you're not familiar, Skansen is one of the first open-air museums tasked with presenting all of Sweden in a single place. And the restaurant is very interesting because it echoes presenting Sweden's food heritage with pickling and preserving methods and focused on game dishes commonly found in the north. What I found interesting about Casey is he himself is very multidimensional. He also works with physicians. He also teaches and presents at some of the hospitals within and around Stockholm. And his food philosophy is combining the best of traditions with modern technique, not overdoing it, but also not oversimplifying, and healthy food as fun and inspiring and not depressing. So I think he's one to watch on the food scene. If you're interested, we'll be featuring him in one of our upcoming articles in the Wellness Travel Journal. I'm going to talk now about the travel cycle, food and wellness at airports. Airports are really big businesses. They've become destinations themselves. In order to attract more passengers and increase revenue, airport renovations are featuring sleek, ultra-modern designs, natural light, better food choices, higher food venues, and a lot of different health and fitness offerings. So this sense of designing terminal bliss was really a way of making airports a more attractive venue and a pleasant way to cash in on a captive audience. So last year, Americans spent $1.5 billion at airports, which was up by about 15% over the last 3 years. So here's what I've observed regarding the food scene in airports. You certainly have do-it-yourself. So on the right side, you'll see organic. There's all sorts of different food choices for consumers, whether it's vegan, gluten-free, heart-healthy, what have you. There's this movement of having farmers markets at airports. This is a picture of the farmers market, LA Farmers Market at LAX. It's in the Delta terminal. I was just there earlier this week on Wednesday, very, very busy. So the idea of exporting a brand, especially a farmer's market at an airport. You have on the left side, I find this very interesting, this is Chicago O'Hare. What you see there are beekeepers. So they are the largest, their airport is the largest beekeeping on-site provider or aviary rather. They also brand their bee products. So I believe it's Sweet Inspirations is their brand that they sell at the airport. So it's combining sustainability with health and wellness. On the right side, you see a photo of a chef. There's this movement of having Michelin-rated chefs to kind of upgrade the whole airport experience. This is Danny Garcia in Malaga. He's an Andalusian chef that holds a couple of, he has 2 Michelin stars, but there are other celebrity chefs as well at airports. We've got Gordon Ramsay, Plain Food in London Heathrow. There's also Alain Ducasse in Newark. And what I find interesting about Newark Airport is the chefs at Newark are required to shop at green markets 3 times weekly from spring to fall. And I'm not sure that we had that several years ago. So there's also airport maps and apps to guide hungry travelers. And so wellness and food at airports has changed pretty dramatically over the last several years. Food and wellness in airlines has also changed. So while you may be familiar with Sky Chefs, there are other interesting things that have been happening on the scene. Now, on some airlines, you're able to pre-order your meal in business class so that you're not in danger of having your preferred food choice run out. There's special menus. Turkish Airlines is really interesting. They are one of the first that I know of that featured Sky Chefs on board, but there are other airlines as well that do this now. They have a very interesting menu that, for example, their healthy beverage menu was developed by a physician to reduce the effects of stress and indigestion and insomnia that often travelers experience when they're flying. So a couple examples to give you would be some of their teas. And if you're a tea lover, this might be of interest to you. So in the winter, there's echinacea, clove, and cinnamon to help clear up upper respiratory tracts, inhibit coughing, strengthen the immune system. Things like sage and ginger that increase energy and mental alertness. Clove, reducing the swelling that can occur during air travel. There's lots of different interesting things that are happening in the food scene in airlines. There's a culinary theater. Just the presentation itself of having a chef on board can be pretty impressive and also help with passenger engagement and the customer experience. There are also Michelin-rated chefs in air. I believe Air France was one of those that had a Michelin-rated chef that designed their menu for their business class. There are also micro events, so having chefs on board and taking it to a different level. So there's one airline that solicited restaurants from their companies to develop a business class menu that kept within the restrictions of the same budget that their airline would have. And then every month that restaurant was featured within the airline. So it was another way of engagement and also focusing on local. Wellness and food in airlines also has taken a kind of a new twist, which is, especially with airline safety, we're usually told to remain seated, but one of the airlines is encouraging for the long hauls to have their, I think it's economy premium, roam around what's called a wander wall, which is located near the front galley just behind the upper class bar in the bulkhead, and to peruse and socialize and take snacks. So again, the space is being used in a different way than it has been in the past. We're going to move on to food and wellness and lodging and wellness in hotels. So you've probably seen this already, that there are several general trends that are very close to the airport. So to do it yourself, there's a lot of different variety, from diabetic and gluten-free, vegetarian, low carb, low sodium, and what have you. There's an emphasis on the grab and go, so healthy snacks that you can take on the road or snack in between your meetings. Healthy hotels are really in demand, and the reason that they're in demand is because of consumer influence. So it's been projected that there's going to be a growth of 65% of luxury hotels and 32% of other types of hotels that focus on health and wellness. This is a trend that we'll see growing in the future. There's also a look at not only eating healthy and nutritious food, but balance. And what I really like is there's one brand, if you're not familiar with it, the Even Hotel brand, and I'll be talking a little bit more about Even in detail, but what I think is really neat about Even is it's not about deprivation, it's about balance. So in the right-hand corner, you'll see an image of a glass of wine, and they believe that it's okay to have a balanced indulgence, a healthy indulgence. So wellness is about balance and not overdoing it. So they offer plenty of desserts and smoothies and different types of herb-infused cocktails and fully customized meals, which I think is really interesting. Regarding food labeling, we were all pretty much familiar with food labeling. But what I like specifically about their new concept, their pork and kale concept, is their food labeling is a lot more innovative. It speaks to being easier to read and to understand and to access information. It's consumer friendly, it's educational. So this is an example. You see superfoods, immunity, calming, vegan, calories under 426 calories, and certification, which leads me to the next slide, which is addressing guest concerns. So generally speaking, I'm seeing many different types of certifications in the wellness travel space, from wellness travel specialists, wellness travel agents, to certified healthy destinations, certified, not sure what's going on in the background, there's a little bit of noise. If I would ask that person to mute, please. Certified wellness building destinations. And in food and lodging, we're seeing certifications as a way of really responding to and addressing guest needs. So it's not only about sustainability, but it's about education. So what I also think is interesting is again, even as taking it to another level, they have educated their food and beverage team members who undergo a certification process to understand and communicate aspects about the menu, about the nutritional content, about the health benefits. So I think this is very unique. The certification was designed by a culinary nutritional consultant who looked at high-quality food and fresh ingredients, but they also used a working test kitchen to validate all the recipes, different types of equipment and processes that were vetted by their team of chefs and a scientific community to ensure that the dish is healthy, sustainable, and tastes good. The concept, again, of wellness designed through food. So I mentioned a little bit about their consultants, but they have an advisory board that I think is really interesting too. They have a gentleman by the name of Dr. Drew Ramsey. You see his picture there. He's a psychiatrist, he's a farmer, and he's an author. And then also Dan Simon, who is the principal of BSAG, who was the consulting firm that put together the pork and kale concept. And the whole even hotel brand concept took quite a bit of time and effort in terms of researching consumer insights. It was more than 24 months of research to offer this kind of holistic approach to health travel. And on the food side, on the business side of food, the food concept includes a tracking model, a menu management system to keep labor costs in control, and designing a food outlet that didn't require an exhausted, but would be an attractive offering both to consumers and also generate interest in the franchise itself. So talking a little bit about consumer acquisition, this is just, I see that we're running a little bit short on time. Acquiring, onboarding, engaging, and retaining. If I had more time, I'd speak a little bit more to this, but I want to focus rather on branding the wellness lifestyle. The importance of lifestyle messaging, aspirational, inspirational, and something of value. And again, the fact that wellness consumers maintain their healthy lifestyle on the road, they're usually very purpose-driven. So key messaging to that point is going to be important. In terms of brand building, social media is important, influencers, content marketing, and micro events. And I mentioned very briefly that micro event at on the airline about the competition with the local restaurants and engaging the local restaurants in the food experience of the airline, which goes to the left-hand side of customer engagement and building customer loyalty. And then on the right side, you see products And again, the focus has been broadly an emphasis on food, on design. That's not just the menus, but also the physical environment and local culture. So with that, I am going to open up to any questions there might be. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Camille, thank you.
Well, it depends on the type of journey that consumer is taking. So wellness travel doesn't have to be only for the affluent and for a higher end consumer. Wellness travel also appeals and is appealing for family travel. It's been very much democratized. So it can be as a simple camping trip, but it's really the trip purpose and looking at how it is, what different aspects of wellness is incorporated. So there's a wide span of experiences that pretty much meets nearly everyone's budget. Well, I would certainly point them in the direction of our website, which has a lot of really solid information. Some of it is free, as I mentioned, through our infographics. Some of it is fee-based. We are launching our own webinar series, so that's a good place. We've got the Guide to Selling Wellness Travel, as I had mentioned, which is a great resource, and we've had really fantastic, exceptional feedback from those who have purchased it and have said it's really changed their lives, they've changed careers, they've started new departments, they've launched new tours. So I might suggest that would be a good resource as well. We do. Through the Wellness Travel Journal, there are opportunities for promotion, a wide variety of opportunities, whether it's through our website, our consumer newsletter, which is monthly, or our bi-monthly travel trade newsletter. Absolutely, I'd be delighted. Sure, I'd be happy to. So there are quite a number of wellness travel destinations that are very well known, whether it be India or Thailand, Costa Rica, And each has their own kind of unique twist or take on wellness travel. So for Costa Rica, for example, the focus is on eco-adventure. But I just met actually with the Minister of Tourism for Costa Rica, and they are very interested in developing their brand in terms of food tourism. Going back to wellness travel in general, as I mentioned, India is a hotspot for wellness travel for the very reason that you have yoga and Ayurveda and these thousands of years old healing traditions and way of living that embody mind, body, and spirit. Turkey is another destination that has invested very heavily in medical and wellness travel. For them, wellness travel really has a different twist. For them, thermal spa water, so if you think of hot springs and mineral baths, dating back from the Roman times, that's really an area that they have invested quite heavily in terms of their wellness travel products. Those are just a few examples. Absolutely. I mean, there is cross-pollination among different segments that visit different areas for different wellness destinations for different things. So, for example, in Turkey, they have a large number of Germans, Russians, who specifically travel for wellness to Turkey for a variety of reasons. But each destination, of course, is going to have their own key markets. It just varies greatly, of course, from destination to destination. But wellness travel itself is a worldwide mega trend. It's not specific, and the U.S. certainly is not the only market, is what I'm trying to say. Absolutely. Hot springs is one of the emerging, I don't want to even say it's a trend because it's so old, it really has stemmed back thousands of years ago. So absolutely, thermal hot springs, mineral waters is a part of wellness travel, yes. Well, just to interject, it's just about every continent has their own natural resources of healing waters in one form or another, really used as spiritual, emotional, and physical healing. So it's an age-old tradition that spans across geographies and across time. Can you repeat that again? How much research? That's a really interesting question because there's several different types of certification. They each have their own focus. It's the first time that I'm hearing about humane, but I think that's really a great point in terms of being responsible. And I don't think I have an exact answer for that because there's such a wide range of certifications out there. As I said, humane treatment is something that I haven't seen that term used in certifications at this point. That's a great point. Eric, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.